Hi guys, and welcome to another Coffee with Chloe video. I wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for all of the love on my last video. I had so much fun filming it, and I did not expect as many people to see it as they did. The concept of 800 people seeing my video and people liking it enough to like it and subscribe is so, kind of intimidating but so exciting, and I can't wait to share more of my thoughts with you guys. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all of the love. Today we're going to be discussing something I actually discussed in school this week. I am pursuing an online bachelor's degree in English from a accredited university. I was about to say my university, but I probably shouldn't do that. And one of the prompts for a discussion post this week was something that we changed our mind about, which is very, very vague. That's all she gave us to work with. We just had to choose something we changed our mind about and what media, conversations, or communication influenced us to change our mind. The topic I covered was the nonchalance epidemic. One thing you guys should know about me is I have never been a nonchalant person. I've never been a cool person. I've never been good at indifference, etc. I've always cared a lot about everything. Ever since I was a little kid, I've been called sensitive, dramatic, extra, etc. And this capacity for empathy and caring was something that I really was proud of myself for, and I felt like it was a good thing until I got to, I'd say about middle school, early high school. I became more well acquainted with the words annoying, sensitive, extra dramatic in the context of my peers. I'd always been called those things by my family, but to me they were just descriptive words, but they were used more as insults by my peers when I got into late middle school, early high school. As I continued to care a lot about everything around me, about the classes I was taking, the books we were reading in class, the conversations in class, politics, because mind you, as I was going into 8th and 9th grade, this was after the 2016 election, so we had entered into a very interesting part of United States history and modern history where there was just a lot going on. It felt like the only way for me to survive high school was to bury that part of myself and to adopt this mask of indifference, or as people are calling it now, like nonchalance. The way that I described it in my discussion post was I use nonchalance as both a shield against the world and a tool with which to sabotage myself unintentionally. And I did this for years. I mean, we're talking this started in 8th grade, so I was like 13 going on 14, and I've only just started to unpack this and unlearn it in the last year, and I'm now 20. Because I've understood that not caring was the way to survive, I stopped caring about everything. For me, it was an all or nothing mentality. So I stopped caring about school, I stopped caring about my grades, my future, friends, colleges, college entrance exams, relationships, work, and even hobbies. All of it just kind of became things on a shelf in the back of my mind that were collecting dust. And I hated myself with such a violence that watching my life fall apart and watching it all go away was almost satisfying in a way. And it was all because of this idea that caring about things made me too much and made me annoying. The shift from this mindset was a year of grueling, terrible, annoying, hard work. Through adopting this feigned indifference and this act of nonchalance, I had destroyed my life and I now had nothing going for me. At this point, I started reading again. I had not read a book, or at least I'd not read more than 2 books a year since, I don't know, maybe freshman year of high school, which was crazy because I used to consume books the way that I consume air. So I started to read again. I would lay in bed on my phone, reading on my Kindle or my Nook app, and that's all I did. I would wake up and then I would read until I went to work at like 5 p.m. I'd work from 5 to midnight, come home, go to sleep, and do it all over again. And I did that for about 3 months. And the primary books that I was consuming were romance novels. The most notable book during that time, I think, will be People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. The reason this book was so instrumental for me was because of the way that Emily Henry wrote our main character, Poppy. Poppy is loud and she's out there and she is so much. She is so much, it's actually kind of hard to read, and it was hard to watch in the movie because as women in society and as people in society, as a young person, we are told that caring that much and being that loud and taking that much space up is not allowed. It should be embarrassing. We should not feel free to do that. And I wanted to be Poppy. I missed my muchness. I missed what made me me. I felt like a shell of a human being. So at that point, I started to collect hobbies. I was determined to find my way back to who I wanted to be and who I thought I was. And the first step for me was to start to engage with my hobbies again. Because during the pandemic, during this epidemic of nonchalance, etc., I'd really lost connection with all of the hobbies I'd used to have. And a large part of that was because if I wasn't good at it, I felt like it was embarrassing, so I put it down. If I couldn't profit off of it, it was embarrassing, so I put it down. I started picking up hobbies again. I went to Barnes and Noble, I got a membership, bought books. I started to write again. I wrote an entire novel that summer. And some other things that I picked up that aren't necessarily creative, but still kind of test my mind and reinvigorated my curiosity were Sudoku and crosswords. So you can get these books for like $5 at Barnes and Noble from the clearance section. And I started doing these because they really engaged my brain and they made me more curious, especially crossword puzzles. They challenged my vocabulary. So I was writing down words that I was learning from the books I was reading and occasionally I'd come across them in a crossword. Some other activities that I picked up during this time period, I literally have a hobby box that lives in the top of my closet. And this has lived in my closet since this period started. So some of the stuff is from before the nonchalance epidemic. Pastels, sketchbooks, again, not good at drawing, not good at that, but I had so much fun with it. And I was just trying to reinvigorate that creative part of my brain because there had been a point in my life where I was writing constantly and I wanted that back. I felt like I was a shell of a person, and my anxiety had gotten so bad because I didn't have an outlet for anything because caring was not cool. So it's really the nonchalance epidemic that has brought about my love for these hobbies and for creativity in general. One thing I've kind of adopted as a motto is action is a cure for anxiety, because this nonchalance epidemic left me without an outlet for everything going on in the world around me, everything going on in my life, and I fell into this spiral of just self-hatred and hopelessness, which I talked about in my last video and about how that is a privilege to be able to fall into. Over the past year or year and a half, the work I've put into killing the part of my brain that tells me that caring is pathetic has changed my life. When I decided to stop caring about things, like I said, it infected every part of my life and I ended up dropping out of college. I felt so stuck in this hole I had dug for myself, that society had told me I should dig for myself, and I did. And I didn't know who I was or what to do. It wasn't until I got over that fear of embarrassment and I forced myself to do things and to care about my future and life anyways that I started exploring my identity and I made changes in my life. I picked up the hobbies, and that reinvigorated, specifically Sudoku and crosswords, reinvigorated my passion for knowledge. So I started writing book reviews, I started posting them on TikTok, I started posting on YouTube, and then I got back into school. Now I'm a senior in college again. It's been so much hard work to overcome the shame and embarrassment and to develop the confidence that I now possess today, because there's no reason that I should be ashamed of how much I care about the things that I am passionate about, and there's no reason you should either. Passion is how we change the world. It is how the world has been changed for centuries leading up to us. It is how novels are written and movies are filmed, policies are created, nations are built. Passion and drive. The reason that they want us to not care about things, I stated this in my last video, they want us numb and desensitized to the things happening in the world around us because it is passion that causes change. Think of Malala Yousafzai, think of Greta Thunberg, think of Malcolm X. These are just a few examples. There's so many. By killing our passion and killing our chalance, they are trying to keep us silent and compliant. And by rebelling, by caring about things, whether you care about, I don't care. You care about relationships, you care about your education, your hobbies, your job, people in general, makes you powerful. It makes you more empathetic, and it makes you more intelligent in several different manners. And it facilitates change, and facilitating change is what they don't want to see. They being the people in power. I don't care if you interpret they as the government or as billionaires or people with fascist ideals, they want people they want people to be desensitized and numb so that we will turn the blind eye to awful things happening in the world around us. And it has worked over the past few years. We have seen this nonchalance epidemic, not just in myself, but in millions of teens and adults across the world. Let this be your sign to care about things again and to stop letting that hold you back. I know it's scary and it's easier said than done, but I've done the work. I've done the work, and I've worked so hard to not be ashamed of who I am and to not be ashamed of sharing my thoughts and my story and my passions, and I want to see your guys's too. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week.